Well, hello there. Welcome to my very first live screen. Not so sure how this works, but everything is like that when you're doing something for the first time. I like to say hello to Tequila Coleman for being here on the live and those who are also on the live at this moment. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Uh, I see that this is something to navigate. So let's begin. The live has been started for some time now. So, how is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing okay. This is definitely different. Definitely different. Hope everybody is enjoying this beautiful Thursday, and I am ready to get started. I'm going to give us maybe another minute to make sure that others get on. But I am now a little bit understanding how this process work. Tequila, since I see that you have responded, let me know if my voice and everything is being heard, um, and everything is on go from the other end of where I'm at. Awesome, 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 awesome stuff, awesome stuff. Okay, so I guess it's just a matter of I guess I'll wait another 30 some odd seconds and I will just go from there. I'll just take what I have, and it's going to be actually for people to view later. So I don't want to wait too much time and have this dead space going. Again, I say welcome to all who are currently on and who will be on and who may watch later. This is definitely about the return and the things that have happened after the return of my spouse returning back home. It has been interesting. I will say that everything leading up, going through the stages, the course of being separated to the return has been pretty much pretty accurate from many of the prophets that are out on YouTube, but in particular, um, Tequila Coleman's 9 stages. It is definitely on point. It really truly is, and it's so on point that it can be to the point scary because you believe that something like that, how it would go into those stages, and being that when we're dealing with the return of your spouse, I would just say for myself, it's just interesting because when you're in that situation, when you have separated from your spouse, and then for my situation, at the time it was 30 years, and it actually was, it kind of like really rung home to me the anniversary of year 30. So it happened on our anniversary day, at least for myself. And so it's something significant when something happens on that actual day. Um, so, with that being said, and then just going through the process, I mean, it is just like the stages I said. You go through some tough and rough times, and actually, a lot of the things that you look to do are a lot of the things that are the wrong things to do. You actually do a lot of stuff that actually pushes your spouse away. Hold up just for a second. Let me make sure I get this. A lot of the things, a lot of the things that you do, you actually push your spouse away. And but you go through it, you get hooked up, God leads you to the sources that you need. You follow those sources, you stay obedient, you work on yourself. It is a struggle each and every day. Some of us probably lose weight, gain weight, the worry, the blood pressure. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I know by me personally breaking out in halves on two separate occasions in my life, not even dealing with this, but knowing that your body reacts to things that you don't even realize your body is reacting to. But one thing I will say is compared to everybody else, um, gosh, the doorbell just rung. Hold, please. Hold, please. Okay, I apologize. Youngest son came in and he got a key. So why is he ringing the doorbell? But nevertheless, let's continue. So I will say that despite going through that struggle, it seems to me, compared to many who are standing for their spouse to return, my process was faster than most people that are standing. And so I must say that in a way I'm proud of myself. I also must say that I'm thankful to God. Even though my process for me still seemed long. When you are longing for restoration, when you're longing for your spouse, um, it is, and that is 12 to 16 months. I'm one of those guys who really don't remember the actual day, but um, it's been about 12 to 16 months. And it's just to the point where you don't understand um, when is this going to turn around or if it's going to be turned around. But I am thankful to God that He led me um, through all the people who've helped, through just the prayer, the fasting, just God leading me through this because it is definitely a wilderness. A lot of the things that you read in scripture, you kind of just read it and it kind of goes over your head. But it's something when you actually are the one walking down the road that the scriptures are speaking about. And you're definitely in a wilderness. And to be able to come out compared to others a short time. Now, I will say at the return, um, I kind of started seeing things develop. And if you do the process, you do the fasting, you do the prayers nightly, you commune with God when He wakes you up, you be obedient. The things are tough, the things are difficult. And I know a lot of times for myself, I still felt like I wasn't doing enough. And then there was times that you would hear you should rest or you need to let God just handle it and you just kind of stay out the way. But through this process, there's a lot of things you don't know what to do. And sometimes doing nothing is actually doing something. Actually doing nothing in that sense, you're actually doing everything. So I am so glad that I was obedient, following God. Um, you don't get me wrong, there were times that I did some of the things that I shouldn't do, but clearly God knows we're not perfect. And as long as we're putting the effort in, He's going to reward us. I was pretty much obedient and I stayed out of the kitchen. Now early on, I didn't, because it's tough. You want what you want, and you find out when you go in the kitchen, you actually not only burn yourself, but you actually push that person away. Now, make sure as you come on that you like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I thank those who have subscribed, and I just appreciate you. I've seen lately that I'm getting a lot more dialogue with my subscribers, and it's just interesting that they're pulling out me the things that's necessarily to help them. But clearly, uh, clearly, if this information is for you, make sure that you definitely like it, ask your questions, and come back. Come back often and get the information that God is giving me to give to you. The return, as my wife was, and I could see that things were coming around, because at first she did not want to have any parts to do with me. She wouldn't even look me in the eye. But with prayer and fasting, I started seeing things changing and breaking down. The communication was coming back. Doing prayer, I would look for evidence. I was seeing it. Yes, some of it seemed slight. Sometimes you kind of overlook things, but eventually things came and turned around. Now, it was October, late October, and I could feel in my spirit that she was going to make a move of coming back. And I thought it was going to be anywhere between October 29th, October 30th, October 31st. Well, it didn't happen that late October, but I believe November the 3rd was the day that she called and we talked, and she asked about returning home. Now, she returned home on November the 3rd. It lasted a few days, maybe 4 days, but then she left again. With between now, that November the 3rd to we're now December the 21st, there's some days she stays. We are in communication. We go out. We talk a lot. Everything seems to be fine. All of those worries, y'all, about the counterfeit, there's no issues with that. Everything just seems well, but it still seems that the total recovery isn't there. You have to understand that you going through this process, however long you've been going through it, you're that much in front of them. So they have a lot of catching up to do, and it's not an easy situation for them. So you give them their space. But doing this, also, you have to understand that you have to set your boundaries, and you have to kind of help them along, where when you were standing, you had to let them be. But now, as they are back returning, you have a fine balance between giving them their space, but also bringing them along. No counterfeits, none. You don't even worry about the counterfeits, because gone. And just like many other prophets, but in particular for me, Tequila's videos on the counterfeit and your spouse, they don't even have, from my understanding, from where I sit, not even a relationship at all. It's a it's a no go, and this is all that you learn from God anyway. And once you start developing and starting to have faith in God and trust in God, and I will say, I did a video this morning that has not been released now, but it's James chapter 1, verse 3. And it talks about having faith, having patience, going through suffering. I will release that later today. But you go through all of that and you can trust and believe that you have no worries once you have that faith in God. That's how you can just know that God is real, because once you put your faith in him and he delivers for you, there are no worries. Yes, there are going to be some human worries because we're human and we're going to always second guess from time to time. But for the most part, you there. And it just feels so good that you know that God is there for you. With that right now, if there are not many that are on at the moment, but if there are any questions that I can answer, I am happy to, because I know many that are standing, they are looking for the return of their spouse. And yes, I was giddy, I was happy about it. But after a few days, the battle continues. There's still a lot of work to be done. Any questions as I will continue to talk until I see some may pop up. But you have to understand that they are in that same space and they are going to enjoy some of the things that they were already doing. So now to be able to come back in, it just doesn't just they drop everything and come back, because there's some things that they have developed in their lives that they like. But when you are married, there's some things you bring on, and then there's some things that you let go. What are the things that develop in your marriage after the return? Great question. What are the things you developed in your marriage? Well, some of the things that developed is I know that I had to change. I'm not as pressing about stuff. I would say, if anything, I'm more of a solver, one who's anxious, one who wants to fix things immediately. So one of the things that I've developed a lot more patience. I've also developed, which I think is really, really key for those who are standing when your spouse returns, is you don't play that tick for tack game that many of us play in relationships. And a lot of times I say that tick for tack that tick for tack relationship that we do is a lot of times it's not so much bad. It's kind of like to teach our spouse a lesson. And sometimes it might be necessary, but I don't do that because it really isn't about going back and forth at each other. It's more about I can endure what you're giving me and I can understand where you're coming from. And I'm just going to maybe make it known from where I sit, but I don't have to physically show you what that looks like. You may say, well, we're going to go out tonight. And then all of a sudden you call me and change the plans. Well, I'm not going to do the next time that we plan to go out and then do you like that to show you how you did me. I've learned that you don't have to do that. You can just merely just explain it to the person and just tell them how you feel, as opposed to you got to be like one up on them, or now I got to get even. I hope that makes a lot of sense, but that is one of the things that I think that I've developed, that I don't feel like I have to right or wrong or to get even back with my spouse. Can you speak on how soon have the talk with your spouse after the return? Can you speak on how soon you have to talk? Well, good question. We pretty much talked about most things was waiting and standing. Some of the questions on, well, what were you doing and who you were doing it with and what you did this and what you did. A lot of that stuff God had already shared with me early, not to even go there. Because actually what's happened in the past can't be changed anyway. So therefore, I didn't even look to even ask any of those questions and still don't. And actually don't really care to. Yeah, as a human, we probably want to know because we kind of like nosy. We want to know because we want to know. But really, in the big scheme of things, what does it really solve or change? So it doesn't really matter. For us to talk started out, and I felt like early on, I kind of played my hand more. And that's why I said in the video, the return is a little bit different for when a man is standing than for a female standing, because a man's job is to pursue his woman. And a woman's job is more to make known that, hey, I'm available. So with me doing the pursuing, I felt like I said a lot of the stuff that I have received from God, which allowed her to understand that I was still interested and that I was still there for her. So I felt like I gave up a lot. And I know as us as people, we don't really want to play our hand until we see that the other person is going to definitely play their hand. But somebody has to make a move first. And so being that I am the man, I felt like I said more up front, and it kind of left me vulnerable. But at some point, somebody has to do it. And being that the male is quote unquote the pursuer, that's why I kind of like gave the information. And then from there, that's when everything really started to wind. And we talked about coming back and how that would look and, what would be the arrangements. Now, in the midst of it, some of that has changed, but we're still working towards that. Like I said, it is a tough process for quote unquote the husbands, because we have to not be over demanding because we're the male and quote unquote the head of the marriage. But we also have to give enough respect to them to allow them to be able to take their time to understand the process. So it's a fine balance between not being too pushy, but not being pushed over as well. I hope that answered the question. Um, some of the things that that kind of runs through your mind is when they return, you think that just like the movies you watch or the books you read, that there's a happy ending and everything goes back to normal. Well, it really does not work that way, because you have changed some and they have changed some. You've been apart and they've been apart. So you have to make all of that fit. And it just doesn't fit easily. It's a different situation, I know, for everybody. I know for my situation, my mom lives with us. So you're trying to now integrate all of that in together, and that's not easy. The people on the outside, your sons, your grandkids, what people know, what people don't know, what people think they know, you have to take in consent. All of those things that happen, not including God is still working on you and them. And like I said, the hardest part is you want what you want. So you want the return to be final. but you also know that they have growth to do. You're continuing to learn. You are their helpmate. They are your helpmate. And so it's just a lot of stuff and a lot of work that has to be done. Not including you probably already working, they're working. Life is just difficult in and of itself. And then with the return, you know, things have changed because you got this at this place, we got it at this place. These bills were current, you just now obtained some. It's just a lot to work through. And that's why you need a community. You need to constantly stay positive. You have to have your faith strong. You have to continue to do some of the things that you wish would get back to normal. Like for myself, I would wish to get back to normal of a full 8 hours of sleep as opposed to 3 to 4 hours of sleep nightly. So it's just a lot going on. But one thing for sure, and they say two things for certain, is as long as you keep God, everything is going to eventually work its way because God has ordained this marriage. And this is why I say to those who are standing, make sure that you standing, that you are standing for the spouse that God has chose for you, because that is so important. Because if anything else, you're wasting your time, you're putting yourself through something that is already difficult, even if God has called that person. So it is truly something that you need to understand and work on, because this is a tough process that's going to shape and change you, but it's going to shape and change you to be a better person. It's going to put you in purpose. A lot of the things that you probably were called to do years ago now will call you to do it, because now you have to rely on God the Father, and you must have a relationship with him, not just know him, but really, really know him and see how he is operating, not in just your life, but also your spouse's life and others that are around you. We have a few more who have that on. Do you have any questions and answers, even if I have to repeat some of the things that have already been said on this beautiful day? The return, what it looks like after the return. Okay. Well, I'm hoping that this live will help. Understand that even when your spouse returns, that everything isn't over. You actually go through a lot of the same things that you went through with standing. The only difference is they have returned. You know God has sent them back. But you got to understand that the enemy will continue to fight and try to keep them away. I learned some things even last night. And I mentioned to my wife when we were together last night that these are things that are open doors and that we want to close them. And I think the word open door is just a great analogy, because if your door is open, that means any and everything can come through it. But if you close it, you can only come through if you allow it, because it is locked. And we want to make sure that we lock those things in their life, because again, they are behind. They haven't had that real close relationship with God. Now, I know they've had a relationship with God because I know he talks to them. That's the only reason why they come back. But they don't have the relationship and the time put in like you have, because they have been out there doing the things that was not of God, even if they did not recognize that. How important is it to stay on your prayer post after your spouse return? it is just as important. If it's anything, it is slightly not as important, only because you have jumped over that hurdle. But it is still important because the enemy has not given up. No, he's not happy, but he has not given up. And you can see, at least in my case, you can see and feel the pull, even though you know you've won. It's still a pull. And all he wants to do is constantly get you in doubt. And even if you going to win, he still wants to delay it. He still wants to play with you. He still wants to trick you. So it's important to continue. This is now something that you've learned by going through this, how important it is to stay on your prayer post, not only for this, but for others and for other things in your life. So prayer from here on out is going to stay and be vital for you. And you need to slowly invite them, and they need to see your habits, and they need to see your dedication to the Lord, because they'll be able to see and kind of get an understanding the relationship that you were having with the Lord when they were not there. And they need to be able to see that, and they need to be able to see your growth. So your prayer post is still huge. It changed for me a little bit because mine was our prayer closet, and it was something that I had set up a certain way. Now, with the return, I've had to arrange it some, but it is still very important. Any other questions and answers? Well, I just want to make sure that people don't get the false idea of when they return that everything is going to be um, gravy, and that it's just going to be easy, and they're just going to fall in your lap and everything's going to be all right. It is a relief. It is a relief, but you know how difficult it was to stand. And there are people who stand a lot longer than I have. You got to deal with not only your spouse and possibly counterfeits and possibly enemies and possibly families and possibly friends, and everybody is looking and wondering, and everybody has an answer to questions that they don't even know what's going on. But it is so important, no matter what happens, to lean on God. Yes, the prophets will help, the videos will help, the reading will help, but God's word, God, fasting, prayer, being obedient, those and having faith, those are the things that are going to take you through. And until you release and let go, and even with the return, because even with the return, and then my wife kind of leaving, and there's some days she stays there, some days she don't. But even with her leaving, I'm fine, even if she doesn't return. And you gotta get to that point. And once you get to that point, I think that's when everything opens up. Sure, I want her here. Sure. But at some point, we must understand God comes first. And if you put God first, he says in his word, then all these other things will be added. And that's including your spouse. I'm going to keep everything open for the next 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will close this live out. Um, but if there's any other questions before we kind of wrap this up, I don't want to hold it too long. And this is actually my lunch break too. So I want to make sure that I get back on time as well. I do say I enjoy the learning. I enjoy the experience. On just yesterday, I did a video on James chapter 1, verse 2, and it talked about being happy about trials and tribulations. And you go out there and you check out that video, but it did hit my spirit as well about how you are happy about your trials and tribulation. Well, with that being said, look, I thank all of you who have been on. I thank, again, Tequila, you have been just a godsend, not only to me, but others. Your book, your videos, your prayers, your insight from God has just been tremendous. I must say there are other prophets out there who have helped tremendously as well. I thank my subscribers. I thank those who will subscribe in the coming future. I just hope to continue to help others. I understand that this isn't just about me, but it is about what God has given me that I can give back to others. And I truly, truly hope that no one has to go through this, but I know that people will. And I just hope that I can help them through this process. I know God has put this on me so I can share. Yes, this is tough. And maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm right. I think this is a lot more difficult for men, husband standing, than women, because typically society has it where men just kind of like they just walk on and they just leave. And look, you don't want to deal with it, I'm out. But nevertheless, God has been good. I thank you all. Continue to like my videos, subscribe to my channel, and again, much love to you all. God bless, take care, and have a beautiful, beautiful day.